Hello. In this session, we are going to look at the different types of cloud computing that we have. So, in the last session, we looked at the different benefits that your cloud computing provides. So, we looked at your agility, we looked at your elasticity, we looked at using cloud computing, we can deploy globally within a few minutes, and then we also looked at the cost savings, and these are some of the very important benefits that your cloud computing provides. Now, in this session, we will look at the different types of cloud computing we have and what each of these cloud computing means. Now, before we start off with this session, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So let's get started with this. So generally, whenever we talk about your cloud computing, it can be divided into three main types of your cloud computing, and these includes your infrastructure as a service, then you have the platform as a service, and then you have the software as a service. So generally, whenever we talk about your cloud computing, they can be categorized into these three types. All right. So once again, we have the infrastructure as a service, we have the platform as a service, and then we have the software as a service. Now, let's look at each of these one by one a little bit in detail. So when we talk about your infrastructure as a service, now this basically includes the basic building blocks of your IT infrastructure. So this will basically contain everything needed for setting up the infrastructure, and this will be provided by the cloud IT. So it typically provides access to the basically the entire infrastructure, so your networking features, your computers, your data storage space, and many other things. So this includes your data centers, your network, your storage, your servers, your virtualization. All of these will be provided by your cloud computing, and you will have the flexibility to choose the operating system you want, the database, the security, developing the applications. All of these you will be responsible, you will have the flexibility to choose that. So under this, you will be basically controlling all the infrastructure that you want, the servers you want, the database you want, the security, the development of the application, deployment of the application. Everything will be taken care by you as the end user. So this gives you the highest level of flexibility and also the management control over the IT resources. So you can set up the infrastructure, you can manage the infrastructure, you will have the complete flexibility in terms of the IT resources. So this is the most similar to the existing IT resources we have, with many IT department and developers are familiar. So whenever we talk about your IT departments or your developers, they are familiar with this cloud computing infrastructure as service, and the same we have here also. Now, some of the examples under your infrastructure as service includes your AWS, your Azure, your GCP. So basically any cloud that is providing you the infrastructure for setting up your resources, it falls under your infrastructure as a service. Now the next type we have is your platform as a service. Now under this, it removes basically the need for you to manage the underlying infrastructure. So unlike your infrastructure as a service, where you are responsible for setting up the infrastructure and managing the infrastructure, under the platform as a service, you will not be responsible for managing the underlying infrastructure, which generally includes your hardware, your operating systems. And because of this, you can focus on developing your applications, deploying the applications, and managing the applications, instead of having to spend time on setting up this infrastructure and managing the infrastructure. So under this, the data center, the network, the storage, the servers, the virtualization, OS, database, security, everything will be taken care by the service provider, and you as an end user will only be responsible for developing the application, deploying the application, and then managing this application. So this will help you to be more efficient, as you do not have to worry about the resource procurement, the capacity planning, software maintenance. You don't have to worry about any of those things, patching, or any of the other undifferentiated heavy lifting which is generally involved in running your application. So some of the examples under this include your elastic beanstalk. So this is one of the service we have in AWS, which takes care of the underlying infrastructure for us, and all we have to do is concentrate on developing our applications. And then we also have this Heroku, which does the same thing for us. Now the next type we have is your software as a service. Now this is the type which most of us as an end user are used to. So any applications that we are using on the day-to-day basis falls under your software as a service. So we also call it as your SaaS. So SaaS provides you with a complete product that is run and managed by the service provider. So under this, we as an end user, we are only going to use the application. We are not going to worry about the underlying infrastructure. We are also not going to worry about developing the application and managing the application. It will be taken care by the service provider. All right. So everything, so your data center, your network, your storage, your servers, your virtualization, the OS, the database, the security, the application, everything will be taken care by the service provider, and we will be the end user. So in most cases, people referring to SaaS are referring to the end user application, such as your web-based email. For example, let's say your Microsoft Outlook or any chat system that we are using for the chatting purpose, we call that as your SaaS application. So with the SaaS offering, you do not have to think about the service is maintained or how the underlying infrastructure is managed. So we are the end users. We're not going to worry about anything. We're not going to worry about whether the service is running or not, whether the underlying infrastructure is set up properly or not, managing that infrastructure. We don't have to worry about any of those things. You only need to think about how you are going to use that particular software. What is the use case of that particular application? That is what we will be thinking in terms of the end user. So some of the examples under this includes your Google Drive, then you have the Gmail application, then your Microsoft Outlook, and any other applications that we're using for the day-to-day purpose. All of these falls under your SaaS, cloud computing. So these are the three major cloud computing types that we have generally whenever we talk about your cloud computing. So once again, we have the infrastructure as a service, where we as an end user, we are responsible for setting up the infrastructure, managing the infrastructure, and then also developing and deploying the application. Then we have the platform as a service, where we are not going to manage the underlying infrastructure. We are only going to concentrate on developing the application and then deploying that application on the underlying infrastructure. And then we have the SaaS, which is basically a finished product. So as an end user, we are only going to use that application. We're not going to worry about the underlying infrastructure. We're not going to worry about developing that application or managing that application. We are only going to worry about how we can use that application. All right. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Once again, before you leave, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you like the video, leave a like and please share the video